Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Mesechet Bikkurim. We are up to Perek Aleph Mishnah Hey. Today's Mishnah should be Leilu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana Aranbayev, and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Menuchatam beGan Eden, Amen. Today's Mishnah deals with the child of converts in regards to a different law, namely the prohibition against a Kohen marrying a convert, which is brought up in Mishnayot Mesechet Kiddushin, chapter 4, Mishnah 1. The Mishnah discusses whether a daughter of converts is included in this prohibition. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, Isha bat gerim lo tinaseh lekehuna. A woman who is the daughter of converts or the daughter of people descended from converts may not be married to a Kohen ad shetiyeh imah Israel, unless her mother or father is an ordinary Jew, meaning someone of unbroken Jewish lineage. And the Mefarshim explain, even if both of this woman's parents are converts or the descendants of converts, but a grandparent on either side, even many generations removed, had Jewish lineage, she is permitted to be married to a Kohen. And now Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov explains, Echad gerim ve'echad avadim mishucharim, regarding both converts and freed Canaanite slaves, Va'afilu ad asara dorot, even if up to 10 generations had passed since they were converted or freed, each of their descendants has the status of convert with respect to the isul, the prohibition against marrying kohanim, meaning a female descendant may not be married to a kohen ad shetiyeh iman miYisrael, unless the descendant's mother or father is an ordinary Jew, meaning someone of unbroken Jewish lineage. And just to go back, when we said avadim mishucharim, freed Canaanite slaves, the Mefarshim explain, when a Canaanite slave is acquired by a Jew, he has to undergo a partial conversion, meaning he must be circumcised and he must immerse in a mikveh because he's obligated to observe some of the mitzvot. Upon being freed, he must complete his conversion by immersing in the mikveh again, because he then becomes obligated to keep all the mitzvot, as the Rambam tells us in Ilchot Isurei Biyah, chapter 12, Halacha 11, and chapter 13, Halacha 11 and 12. A freed Canaanite slave, therefore, has the same status as a convert, and therefore, if the slave is a female, she is forbidden to be married to a Kohen. And the Mefarshim explain that when the Mishnah says, Afilu ad asara dorot, even if up to 10 generations have passed, it's an expression that means a very long time, meaning the status of convert does not stop after 10 generations, but can be passed on forever. And like we said, ad shetiyeh iman miYisrael, unless the descendant's mother or father is an ordinary Jew, someone of unbroken Jewish lineage, because when someone converts to Judaism or a Canaanite slave is freed and marries another convert, they transmit the status of convert to their children, who in turn transmit it to their children, and so on. And the Mefarshim explain, someone whose parents are both converts has the status of convert, which means that if female, she is forbidden to be married to a Kohen, because despite being a Jew from birth, because she was born to a converted Jewish mother, she has convert status in regards to the prohibition against marrying Kohanim. This continues until someone along the line, male or female, marries an ordinary Jew. The children of this marriage do not have the status of convert. Their daughter is therefore permitted to a Kohen, and the Mefarshim explain, therefore, according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, a daughter of converts is forbidden to a Kohen unless she has some ancestor, even many generations in the past, who was born Jewish. And the Mefarshim point out, the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is disputed by Rabbi Yossi in Mishnah Mesechet Kiddushin, chapter 4, Mishnah 2. According to Rabbi Yossi, the daughter of converts is permissible to a Kohen, even if she does not have any Jewish-born ancestors, and the law is that a Kohen may not marry a woman who is descended entirely from converts, but if he did, they are not required to divorce. As the Rav tells us, V'lecha ki Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov lechatchila, ideally lechatchila, the law is like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, but b'diavad, im nasaf, they got married, en motzin otan mimenu, they don't make them get divorced, u'benek sherim, afiliot kohanim gedolim, and their children would be kosher even to be kohanim gedolim. The Mishnah returns now to the list that we began in the previous Mishnah, people who bring Bikkurim but do not recite the Bikkurim passage. Ha'apotropos, guardians. Apotropos, right, refers to someone who manages the affairs of orphans, having been appointed by their father in his lifetime or by the court. So guardians of orphans who want to bring the orphans bikurim to the temple. Vashaliach, an agent appointed by a landowner to bring his bikurim to the temple. Va'eved, a free Canaanite slave who has bikurim that grew on his land, on his own land. Vaisha, a woman who has bikurim that grew in her own land. V'tumtum, a tumtum. V'androgynos, and an androgynos, which Mefarshim explain. A tumtum is a person whose private parts are covered by a thick membrane, so it's not known whether he is male or female. And androgynos has both male and female organs. Miv'in v'lo korin. These people bring bikurim, but they do not recite the passage because they cannot say the words in Sefer Dvarim, chapter 26, pasuk 10. I have brought the first fruit of the land that you have given me, Hashem, because the guardian and the agent cannot say that you have given me, because he's bringing bikurim from land that's not his. The freed slave woman, Tumtum and Androgynous, cannot say these words either, because when Eretz Yisrael was originally divided, it was not given to people from these groups. And the Mefarshim explain it's derived from the Torah that Eretz Yisrael was divided only among free men who were definitely male. Therefore, it would be inappropriate for a woman, a Canaanite slave, Tumtum or Androgynous, to say the Bikkurim passage, which has the words in Sefer Dvarim, chapter 26, pasuk 10, Heveti et reshit priya adama shenatata li Hashem. I have brought the first fruit of the land that you have given me, Hashem. And in addition, like we taught in the previous Mishnah regarding converts, Canaanite slaves cannot say as well, the land that Hashem swore to our forefathers to give to us, since his forefathers were not Jewish. And that is in Rabotai of Mishnah Hey. Mishnah Vav now lists three more circumstances in which bikurim are brought, but the passage is not recited. If someone buys two fruit trees that are in the property of another person, and it was not specified whether the sale includes the land on which the trees grow. The buyer brings bikurim from the fruit of the trees, but did not recite the passage. And the Mefarshim explain, this Tana holds that since it's unclear whether the buyer acquired the land under the trees, it's unclear, right? Because they didn't specify, it's unclear, right? Because the Mefarshim explain, when somebody buys 3 trees, it's assumed that the sale includes the land under the trees and their branches, the land between the trees, and an area around each tree wide enough for a harvester in his basket, even if the buyer and seller mentioned only the trees and not the land. But when someone buys a single tree, this Tana rules that the buyer acquires only the tree without any land. The buyer has the right to maintain the tree in its place as long as it lives. But since he does not own the land beneath it, he may not plant another in its place when it dies. Our Mishnah deals with someone who buys 2 trees, in which case the Tana considers it unclear whether land is included in the sale. Now, since we do not know whether he owns this land, his obligation to bring bikurim from the fruits of these trees is also in doubt, because one does not bring bikurim unless he owns the land on which they grew, like we're in the Mishnah 2. Now, the rule in cases of this type is that since he possibly owns the land, he's obligated to bring the bikurim to satisfy the doubt. But on the other hand, since he possibly does not own the land, he does not recite the passage, because it might be untruthful for him to say, the land that you have given me. As the Gemara tells him, Masechet Bava Batra, page 82a. Rabbi Meir Omer, but Rabbi Meir says, Mevi v'koreh, he brings bikurim and recites the passage, because according to Rabbi Meir, when 2 or more trees are sold, it's certain that the sale includes the land, even if the land was not mentioned, and therefore the buyer is subject to all the obligations of bikurim, which includes reciting the passage. And the Rav tells us, Ve'en halacha ki Rabbi Meir, the halacha does not follow Rabbi Meir. So if he bought 2 fruit trees, and they didn't specify whether the sale included the land on which a tree grows, he brings bikurim, but he doesn't recite the passage. The Mishnah continues, Yavash, if someone owns a tree that received its water from a spring, but the spring dried up, leaving the tree unable to produce fruit, Niktzat Tzailan, or the tree was cut down, Mevi veno koreh, he brings bikurim from fruit that had already begun to grow on the tree, but he does not recite the passage, because the Mefarshim explain, when a tree becomes unable to bear fruit, it's as though the land itself has been destroyed and lost, and the bikurim passage must therefore be omitted, because it includes the words, the land that you have given me. Rabbi Yehuda Amel, but Rabbi Yehuda says, Mevi v'koreh, he brings bikurim and recites the passage, because despite the statement shade of the tree, the land still exists, and the Rav tells us, Ven Rabbi Yehuda, the halacha does not follow Rabbi Yehuda. He would bring it and he would not recite the passage. And the third case of the Mishnah, the final case, Me'atzeret v'adechag meviv v'koreh, from Shavuot until Sukkot, one brings Bikkurim and recites the passage, like we learned in Mishnah 3. Bikkurim may not be brought before the Shtei Alechem are offered on Shavuot. Min Echag vad Chanukah meviv v'eno koreh, from Sukkot until Chanukah, one brings Bikkurim but does not recite the passage. And the Mefarshim explain, the Torah states regarding Bikkurim, chapter 26 of Sefer Dvarim, pasuk 11, V'samachta b'chol hatov asher natan lecha Hashem Elohecha, and you shall rejoice in all the good that Hashem your God has given you. This teaches that the Bikkurim passage is to be recited only during the time of year when people rejoice over their harvest. This rejoicing lasts from Shavuot, the beginning of the harvest season, until Sukkot, when the crops are brought indoors to protect them from the coming rain. Now it's learned from a pasuk in the Torah that Bikkurim may be brought as long as similar fruits can still be found on land, which is the case until Chanukah, but not later. So he would bring it, but he would not recite the passage anymore. Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera Omer, however, Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera says, Meviv v'koreh, even between Sukkot and Chanukah, he brings Bikkurim and recites the passage, because Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera holds that the time of reciting the passage is not limited to the time of rejoicing. The passage is therefore recited even after Sukkot, when the period of rejoicing has ended, until Chanukah, which is when similar fruit can still be found on the land, which is the latest time you can bring Bikkurim. That is an Abu Tayyib today's Mishnah Yomi. The Rav does tell us before I finish that the halacha does not follow Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera. The halacha follows the Tanakama, that from Shavuot until Sukkot you bring and recite, from Sukkot until Chanukah you bring Bikkurim, but you do not recite the passage. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen v'amen.